us. Oh, heard us. Okay. First question. So I've got about 6 or 7 questions here. First question is addressed to you, Nancy. Has the centralized American form of government solved the issue of falling membership?
Okay, I see that as a two-part question, one of which has absolutely nothing to do with the other. First of all, the form of government in the Theosophical Society in America isn't really centralized. A number of years ago, we used to have 9 districts, north, central, south, east, central, west, and so those were in little squares. 1 representative from each district, 2 vice presidents, and a president. When John Algeo came into office, which would have been in the early 90s, he thought that was too big, too cumbersome, and he thought that it should be smaller. He liked the number 7, considered a spiritual number, so he wanted 7 board members. So what we did was we changed it from 9 regions to 6 regions. So now we have east, central, west, north, and south for each of those. 1 representative from each district, and there were 2 vice presidents who cut it down to 1. So that made 7, with the president having a tie-breaking vote. He didn't vote unless it was a tie. And then everybody in the United States votes for the officers. Everyone votes for president and vice president. And then the people in each region vote for their representative. So that's all done, at the same time. So that's what changed as far as the governing. It was just made a little bit smaller. But the fact that the governance changed had absolutely nothing to do with the size of the membership. I think that, and also Dorothea Abbenhouse, who was president before John Algeo, around in her presidency, there were approximately 3,000 members, and it had been going down and down and down. And every board meeting, we would look at that and say, and try to figure out why it was going down, and try to figure out reasons, ways to fix it, and nothing ever changed anything. Now we have about 3,000 members. So it's, they're different people, but it has stayed pretty much at an even keel. And that's for that size country, that's not a great amount of members, but anyway, that's what it was. I think that probably what has had more to do maybe, and I don't know this for sure, with retaining membership is change in programming. At the headquarters in Wheaton, Illinois, every Thursday night they have a public program, and they will get usually a pretty good audience to that public program, but that's only one area of the country. So, and that's a physical presence. What has happened is that they have gotten more and more into technology. And now we have these webinars and classes that are online that anyone in the world can attend from their home. And it's just my personal feeling, and I don't know if this has much validity, that it's that kind of thing that has changed the membership and helped it.
Okay. I will hand over to John for comment, but here we are. The webinar program, anyone in New Zealand that can attend that, I've actually signed up for this, the Secret Doctrine one. So you pay your $35 US, and then you can come in on their thing each Monday if you want to come. Now, I've been doing that for about 18 months. This is open to all members worldwide, and I don't see a point in reinventing the wheel. So if someone wants to do that, they can sign up to that. Mm-hmm. So that's quite important. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this John specifically as well. So thank you.
All right. Now we had a discussion on Friday about the structure of the TOS in New Zealand, which I think possibly prompted this question. But just take a step backwards. The Theosophical Society internationally is declining. There's no country exempt from that. We talked about it a little at the General Council meeting at Adyar, and I mentioned how we just lost a branch, which was a healthy branch with more members than half the branches in New Zealand, because no one was willing to take on the role of president. And Linda Oliveira then popped up and said she's had exactly the same experience in Australia. They just lost rather a large branch because the branch hasn't got a president. So the declining membership shows essentially that we're no longer reaching a large target audience. So no section knows the best way to deal with this. But the governance board in New Zealand has sort of taken this on hand and is doing its best to try and find a method that will reverse this in New Zealand. So they've got no magic wand to know what to do, which is why we had this meeting on Friday to discuss it with everybody. So they presented some ideas, and a lot of the members had good contributions, which were written on the board, which everybody could see, which we photographed, which is a process that's going to continue over the next year. We're going to ask each member what they think about the future. One thing that certainly seems important in this day and age, which is the Aquarian age, as Barbara was talking about earlier, is that everybody wants to have participation in whatever happens. It doesn't mean they want to be on the board and making decisions, but they want to be party and able to contribute to decision-making processes when they can. And this is something that we need to enable as part of that process. Now, we have no fixed model we're going to go to yet. We proposed an idea where we have a tiered structures of branches, and a branch can voluntarily move from one tier to the other, is the process that we're thinking of at the moment, but that's not maybe how it's going to end up. And they can then move from one tier back to the other tier if they want to. So this is what we're thinking. And one tier is administration light, and the other tier I would consider administration heavy, based upon the old way we used to do things. This is something we're doing together. This is not something that I or the board is going to impose upon anybody.
Thank you. I did notice that, Nancy, you said your board looks at this membership at each meeting, which I felt was quite healthy. I know we do that in New Zealand. Did you want to comment to that, John? That's something that is the board's responsibility, and they're trying, strategy. And so they're looking at this every time they meet. So 4 times a year, this is coming up. Do you want to comment to that specifically?
Just that every board meeting looks at membership as a specific item on its agenda. And, the trends we see every quarter. And that it's of concern sometimes. So this year our membership's actually gone up. I'm surprised no one here has mentioned that. But, it's...
We don't know what happened. That's the trouble.
Well,
we don't know what went up.
With membership it's difficult because the national section doesn't control the membership. The branches do the membership.
Yes.
So we can see branches that are weak and branches that are strong. But it's not our role to interfere with what a branch does. So a branch in the Theosophical Society is autonomous. And the last thing that the national section wants to do, impose upon a branch what it should do. We're happy if asked to provide resources, etc. But the role, the mechanism of running a branch and what your brother branch does is with the branch. So if we did go in and try and run a branch's program, then we would be taking that autonomy away. And then that would be inappropriate according to New Zealand law.
Can I ask for clarification? Somebody else might be interested in what I'm asking. When we present stuff online as an alternative, what we've been talking about, is there any advantage for someone to take membership if they can just go online and access the knowledge? Now, I know that our first objective is to share it with everyone before we count heads, but we also need to count heads to survive. So what incentive would I have if I went online to actually take membership? That's my question.
Nancy?
We were discussing this point actually before this panel, and that's true. That's I said that I felt that this had a lot to do with increasing membership, but the reverse could be true as well, from what Chris says. And what just occurred to me as you were talking is that this is one webinar. So if somebody is going to this one webinar and likes what they hear and likes the concepts, it could very well be that they think, well, I want to know more about this stuff. So they join for that reason. Because, you know, there are various webinars, but they aren't the whole, you know, of Theosophy. So, yeah. Or I would really like to find some like-minded people in my area. That's a big draw for all of, we all know that. We really like being able to go to the branch and to, you know, share with people who think similarly, because we certainly all don't think alike, but who think similarly to the way we do. So, you know, I think there's a...
Renee, yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Well,
Nancy. Deepa?
I would like to say that yes, everybody is focusing on membership increase of membership. Why not we look at the quality member? Quality member is more required than the quantity. Of course, we need more members. But there was a time when the Theosophist, I know my father, he never used to tell us that you join Theosophy. He used to say that no, we are not going to impose on you. Theosophy says that no imposition. If one feels, then only one can join. There should not be any kind of imposition.
Thank you, Deepa. I think that also brings up that could a webinar replace all of us the way we do here and the lovely energy and the flow of the week? You've got to ask yourself that question.
We know that already. The new people coming in to what we offer online don't know that yet. That's my concern.
Yeah, well, actually, there's an email waiting in my inbox from a member from a branch who did not know about the convention. So I know that they've not read the magazine, and I know that that branch did not tell their membership, and I know that. So I'm thinking, well, I have to go back. It's also up to us to make sure that every member of our branch, I know that in Auckland, in every newsletter, they're advertising at the upcoming convention, no matter what, because they want their members to be aware that this option is there. So there's responsibility on both sides. Any comment, John, further to that?
No, just how many here would like to see us have the odd webinar in New Zealand? How many people here would like to see us have the odd webinar in New Zealand? Okay, there's quite a few. Now and then.
Now, the reason that is because there's already many webinars online on the American section, but the times can be a little odd. Okay, so maybe we could do a test
That
pilot. Or
wasn't what I meant by odd. Now and then.
Not that it had to be odd.
We could have.
Carol.
I'd just like to ask if, looking at the membership situation, the decline in membership, are these people who are elderly people and who have moved on, or are they people who have come into the society and then left? Because there's a big difference
That's a
between
good
the two,
question.
because sometimes it may be that a few hold the space for the new generation coming in, you know? Yeah, some of this, I don't know, is this...
I'll put this question to the panel, because are we also, exactly what Carol says, holding that space? Are we not meant to be mainstream? Are we there for those to come in and get recharged and then go out and into the world and do what they need to do, like has happened in the past? So I put this, Nancy.
To form a nucleus.
Yeah.
That's
Centre.
That's not the whole world, that's the center.
Yeah. That makes a good point.
And I did ask John this question the other day, how many members that you are losing are lost because they have passed into the light, as they say in India. I like that.
I've always heard
Passed into
expired.
peace. Passed into peace.
That too.
That is passed into peace,
But,
yes.
how many have died, and how many have simply left? You know, and John did say that there's a lot of it is because of death.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just that's the timing.
Generally, statistically, 50% of members who join the Theosophical Society leave within 2 years of joining, but the other 50% stay longer. So this is statistically all around the world. So people come in, they have a taste, shoot around for a while, and then move on to taste something else. And we're not really an organisation which is specifically focused on trying to get members. We never have been.
In 2 years,
It's
people
just
will
that
go
members
available.
are a barometer of how well the organisation is doing. Rada Bernier mentioned this a couple of years before she died, I guess, that she was concerned about the drop in membership of the Theosophical Society, not because the number of members so much, but because of the energetic influence that we as an organisation have on the world lessens them. So something else to consider.
Can I come in? I mean, when you're assessing, 21st century, if you're on something like YouTube, then you say, oh, well, I've got 500,000 people that are seeing our posts. They're responding. Now, that gives you a feeling as to what your influence is on the nation. Your membership doesn't. Your membership is vital to this, but it's not actually measuring perhaps what you want to measure, which is, well, are we effective out there? How is it if we change what we're posting, people respond more? What are they responding to? You get much more feedback. In other words, the modern world is offering an opportunity for you to actually measure without simply being focused exclusively on membership.
So it's interesting, because what comes to mind is that our YouTube channel, Theosophy has over 600 people subscribed to it. That's as many members as we've got in New Zealand. So, and when you bring Facebook into it, and other things in it, we have a whole audience of people that are now aware of us and listening to us. And some of those come to our meetings, maybe only 5%, but that's something that comes to us.
Actually, there are so many spiritual organizations coming up, younger people are getting attracted towards them because of their motivational speeches.
Yes, there's always that side that pulls people in, but it doesn't necessarily keep them for the long term. I was thinking of a particular member that wrote and resigned. It's about 2.5 years ago, and she wrote and sent all the Theosophical books in, the Secret Doctrine, old copies, and the Voice of the... She didn't send the Voice of the Silence, everything but the Voice. And in her letter she wrote, I'm writing to resign from the society. I owe so much thanks to H.P. Blavatsky's Voice of the Silence and the study class I attended at HPB Lodge over the years, and she came to schools of Theosophy. She had gone to join the Dalai Lama's group of Buddhists, the most beautiful soul, and it was interesting. Different people's reaction was, oh damn, we've lost her. And I thought, no, this is success. This is where someone has stepped out and done that. And it really warmed my heart, that one, because I thought, yeah, she felt she needed to drop everything, but she didn't drop the voice of the silence. That one wasn't there.
What's a Buddhist text?
Yes, of course. So, all right, now let's move to the next question. Really, if it's a quick one, Helen, haven't got it.
One sentence.
Okay.
I would like to see us offering to go to groups whose membership is diminishing, perhaps, and also they haven't got the speakers to go and talk to them on a regular basis. And I feel that just getting another way of getting the message out into the more mature population, perhaps, and the younger ones, things like Probus, they're always looking for speakers.
Okay, John, did you want to comment on that at all? Or?
No, I think it's a good idea. The struggle is, of course, with so few speakers at the moment. It's hard to get someone that's willing to and able to do that. So one of our projects at the moment is to train people who are wanting to be speakers. A few years ago we ran several courses to train speakers. We invite anyone to come along to train to be a speaker. So we trained quite a few people, but none of them then went forward to speak. So we've got to try and do it a different way. As Einstein said, if you keep trying to do the same thing and expecting change, you're never going to change. So to get change, you need to change the way you do things.
We're also at National Section. We will speak and invite some people to speak, but we're very mindful that it's very universal and very accepting on the national platform. So we will not go narrow on that platform or hone in. We really want to have that inclusive universality. Very important for us. So, okay, now let's jump into our second question. That first one took 30 minutes. We'll be here till 8 p.m. Okay. All right. I put this question to you, Deepa. Why is the Indian section membership for women only at 10%? Is there
Well, there are many reasons. For the urban ladies, I would say the urban women, those who are in cities and metros and all that, those who are intellectual, those who are educated. Well, as I said just now, that there are so many spiritual organizations coming up, so they are getting interested towards them. They are getting attracted towards them, and they attend their retreat centers. They have many retreat centers like Isha Vasudeva. He is one. Then another Brahma Kumaris, they have their retreat center. So they just diverse and they go and attend those courses. They are in India. And another side is those who are in the middle class family, women. Those women, they are religious and ritualistic. So they spend most of the time in the religious ritual systems. So besides that, they have to do their household job, everything they have to do. So they don't get time to, go out of the house and attend meetings.
Because it's only at 10%, does it mean that because there's more male representation, does it get more heady, more intellectual, more discussion than practice, than talking about the things that bring you to your heart and things? Does it sit in that academic realm more? Because I have seen some things up in India where I've looked at sometimes the blog, Tim's blog, and at the meeting they're actually 100% male at some opening, and I'm thinking, where are the females? And you've answered some of that there, but I wonder, is that taking us into a space that is not conducive to people going to their heart and the realization of the ancient wisdom?
Well, but the books, the Secret Doctrine and other books, they are written in such a very difficult language, and can't be understood by the women by themselves. And the gents I mean, their husbands or spouses or whatever, they don't have that much time or not to just help them understand these things. And that is how there becomes a big gap, and they lose interest. But it's not that. I know of many ladies who are not members, but they are practicing Theosophy in their daily life, and that is what is really good, and I like it. They have not read many books of Theosophy, I mean the main books, but this oneness and love, compassion, all these things they are practicing in their daily life. They are practicing. Most of the ladies do that in India. They are they are very loving, very caring, and that is what is Theosophy, isn't it?
It is. I was thinking something that might help address the equality is having a family membership. You have it slightly less for a family membership, and some couples may decide to subscribe that way rather than the wife not being a member. Just a thought.
Yes, that is also there. That is also there. But in most cases, both husband and wife, they join Theosophy, yes.
Okay.
But they are not very serious about it. That's the thing, is not all of them are that serious.
Yeah.
Many members are there, but very few are really into it.
Now, this next question I'll address to you first, Nancy. How have you found our AGM and convention in this part of the world compared to where you come from and the conventions and AGMs that you attend?
Well, I did attend part of the meeting the other day, and I could see by the way it was set up that you have a representative from each lodge on your board, which to me that's very it's very wide spread leadership, which I think is good. And also the convention. I was telling John, it feels to me like a cordial family atmosphere. People seem to like each other, and even if you don't, you're being tolerant and you're listening. I mean, I don't know. You're listening, sharing opinions. It's very heartwarming and uplifting. I'm finding this really a good convention.
Thank you for sharing that, Deepa.
I have also the same opinion. I find the members are very tolerant and very, they accept things. May not be accepting wholly, but still then they have their own views. They may differ, but at the same time, they are quite tolerant. Yeah, they welcome others' views. So.
I've heard no raised voices, no short tempers, nothing like that. It's been really good.
Oh, give me time. You wait till you've gone home.
The weather has been good.
Okay, thank you. Next question to Deepa. Do you think that the future of the society depends on our ability to make Theosophy practical to its members?
Yes, very much. Theosophy has to be practical. There's no doubt about it. And we have the potentiality. All of us have that potentiality. That is, we need to transform ourselves. Theosophy is not theoretical, conceptual. It is, but it is also practical. It has its practical aspect, and the practical aspect is more than the theoretical aspect. And the Theosophy is to be lived. It is not a conceptual study that it is studied and then, well, I'm done. It is to be practiced every day. We need to live Theosophy. So how can we live Theosophy unless we transform our own self? Because we have to deal, when we live Theosophy, we have to deal with many people, and there may be different views. Many people have different views, different, maybe of different negative attitudes, many other things one has to face. So to face those things also, one has to transform oneself. Otherwise, it's not possible. And our aim, the aim of Theosophy, purpose of Theosophy is that self-transformation, to go higher and higher, to evolve. To evolve means spiritually as well as morally, ethically. And particularly, and that is what I think, this is what is needed for this time. We need that. And with that comes tolerance, acceptance, all these virtues. So, unless we transform ourselves, we cannot transform others, other members. So the senior members, the senior Theosophists, it is our responsibility, more responsibility, to see that we practice that, so that by our actions we should become an example to others, so that they will emulate that, they will be attracted. Yes, Theosophy means here is an example like that. Like we say, Annie Besant, Radha Vernier, Madame Blavatsky. So we should be examples like them, so that others will follow us.
So it's a living wisdom.
Living, yes.
Yeah, it's quite important.
One need to live Theosophy,
Yeah.
not only to study Theosophy.
Thank you. Now I'm going to point this next question to you, John. What are the main or major messages in the Secret Doctrine for people?
Just put that off the bat. 5 minutes. An easy one, John.
When you're ready, you will.
The modern day Theosophical Society is a beginning again of what used to be an ancient wisdom that was known to everybody back in the distant past, back before the Vedas, etc., etc. And over the years, that knowledge has become lost. Now why that happened is a long story. But what we've had is through this, what is often called the Kali Yuga, or I call it the age of forgetfulness, is we've lost our touch with what that divine wisdom is. Yet, you can find it if you go back and look at all the religions, and the people who brought the message through, like the Jesuses, the Buddhas, and so forth, taught the divine wisdom. So we can go back and look at their messages. So in a sense, the Secret Doctrine was a reintroduction to the modern day world of aspects of that divine wisdom. Yet divine wisdom is not something that can be written in black and white, on paper, in a book. So what the writers of the Secret Doctrine did quite cleverly is they brought all the writings that were lost in the world, that were still in the world, together into one volume. But they didn't just give one person's perspective, they gave different perspectives from different people. That's why the Secret Doctrine is hard to read, because these perspectives go on for pages and pages and pages. And then you forget where you've come from. So you've got to have a pretty good memory when you read the Secret Doctrine. So the Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled, they go together. They are part of a whole. Reintroduces to the world a view of what the Secret Doctrine, of what that ancient wisdom is. And it can be found everywhere. What happens a lot in the Theosophical Society today is we get stuck on just reading books that were written by Theosophists. But Madame Blavatsky quoted something over 1,000 different traditions and movements from all around the world that contain parts of the Secret Doctrine. And so to really study and find out what the Secret Doctrine is, we have to go out and search for it and find it. One, through our study, but mostly through that process we go through ourselves, through digesting, searching. You know, it's an outer journey in one respect, and it's an inner journey in the other perspective. So to really understand it, you know, the heart and the mind have to become one, as I talked about. So the Secret Doctrine contains, and what's the right word? The Secret Doctrine gives us the impetus to begin our search. I read it when I first came across it when I was 25, and it changed my life, you know, because of what it said to me on a heart level, on an inner level. It's not so much an intellectual book you can read. You know, the biggest gift that you get out of the Secret Doctrine is the 3 fundamental propositions in the proem. And she says very, very plainly, to understand the ancient wisdom, especially what she writes in the Secret Doctrine, you have to understand these 3 fundamental propositions. Otherwise you won't understand the Secret Doctrine. You know, and those are very simple, like that. Yeah, I won't go into the 3 fundamental propositions because we'll be here in half an hour still. But you all have heard me talk about these things before. So the message of the Secret Doctrine is a message to us to start us off on our journey. It's pointed us in a direction. But it can't take us there. We have to take ourselves there.
Signpost, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, John. Nancy, would you like to add to this?
Yes, I agree with everything John said, and I will continue from where he left off, because the 3 fundamental propositions to me, as John said, are the heart and soul of the Secret Doctrine. And as most, if not all of you know, the first fundamental proposition talks about the unity of all life, the absolute oneness. The second fundamental proposition talks about cyclicity and periodicity. Things go in cycles, you know, the seasons, the night and day, all of that. And then the third fundamental proposition is the pilgrim's journey. And that is what all of us are on. And that is the part where we are living Theosophy and learning and growing as we go along. And the Secret Doctrine says that we have come through every, I don't know what the word is, every classification of nature. We have all been rocks, we have all been animals, we have all plants and animals, and we have gone through these different incarnations. It's not just human incarnations that we've gone through. We've gone through all of these things and learned the lessons that those various types of life have to teach us. And then we get to the human part, and we have to, I'm trying to remember how she put it, we have to individuate
through our own self-devoted effort.
Through our own self effort, and you don't just start, you know, reincarnating and learning until you do this individuation. The earlier stages is kind of nature imposed. It kind of happens through nature. But once we get to the human part, it has to be self effort. We make this effort, and that's how we grow. And Blavatsky, we call it spiritual self-transformation. We call it various things. Blavatsky called it spiritual unfoldment. Unfolding, and to me that's like the flower and, you know, blooming and all of that kind of thing. But that's what I get out of the Secret Doctrine. I don't know if I probably shouldn't go. The one phase of Theosophy that to me I've always felt is rather boring and also very much misunderstood, although I didn't understand it either, is what we call rounds and races. and change. And it's like, oh God, please, forget it. But when I'm reading about it in the Secret Doctrine, it became more interesting to me because it talked about, it talked about Mother Nature was trying to make a vehicle for the divine forces to come into. And it started out with like not a physical body. It was like spirit or something. Then there were physical bodies that reproduced like budding. That didn't work. Then there were there were physical bodies that were dual sexed. That didn't work. And then there's something called pudding bags that was just kind of So anyway, she goes through all of these things, and it finally turned out that the powers that be, whatever they are in the absolute, said, no, this is wrong, and destroyed everything that had been done, and said we need to infuse this life with divinity. Otherwise, it's not going to work. They're just going to be like, I don't know, automatons or something. But when they first started doing that, everybody was like all the same. There wasn't any really free will or anything like that. And I read one thing that I will say it really piqued my interest, and I would really like to do more research on it and maybe do talks or something about it one day. But it's something that I had never heard about before. And what that was that we've heard of the fall of the angels, certain angels. And what happened was that there were all these divine beings, they were infusing the life into the divinity into this human life, and it wasn't really working because everybody was coming out like, the same. And then there were some angels that said, no, we ourselves have to inhabit these bodies. We ourselves need to sacrifice ourselves so that these beings can have free will. And it says in there that these were the fallen angels. And I was just aghast when I read that, and I did do, like I said, a lot more looking that up and research on that to really understand it. But it was just like, this is really interesting because this is like blasphemy, but anyway, so those angels, which are considered not the good angels, actually came into the human bodies, inhabited them, gave them free will, and to me in looking at this, I thought, my God, this is the story of the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, this is the story of Lucifer.
Lucifer and the fallen angels, and I thought, oh my God. So, anyway.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I think we've opened a can of worms.
It is a can of worms.
We'll invite Nancy back for the School of Theosophy in a couple of years.
After I figure this out.
All right. Before I move to our last question, Deepa, did you want to add anything, or you're okay to leave that alone?
Yes, but one thing is I would like to say that the first objective, the proposition, the oneness, and the Secret Doctrine, I am attracted to that very much because that leads to the practical Theosophy and Blavatsky's definition of altruism, and that is what I'm very much, into it.
As you can see, it points in a lot of different directions, so I think everyone can get something from the Secret Doctrine. It's quite an interesting book. So there is a little book over there that we have for sale for $4. No, I want to tell you this. It's called How to Study Theosophy. Very important. Trying to think who's Captain Bowen or
Robert Bowen's notes.
Yeah, Robert Bowen's notes. Okay, and it talks about to get your perspective right first, the vision of the whole. Because if your vision's not right, anything you study, it's going to be a bit off
killed her a little bit. It's the most thin, tiny book and a lovely one to read before you move into really serious study. So it's online, you don't even have to buy it, it is online.
Also, I'd like to mention those notes were taken when HPB was teaching the Secret Doctrine to students.
That's right. She was
Yes.
teaching them to her personal students, like almost disciples, and she was very sick at this time. And they would ask questions, and she would reply to those questions. And all of the students would say she almost wasn't there. There was a presence, and they could feel it, and it was palpable. And then I can remember one of it was Robert Bowen writing that, what did he say? He would sometimes ask when he wrote something down, did I get this right? And he said, she would smile sometimes, and he'd say that smile is worth winning, because she would say, that's the best I've ever heard anyone explain that. And so these notes kind of went into hiding for a little while. Not that they were hiding, they just disappeared. 40 odd years later, these notes come out, and that is that little booklet. Okay, so how to study Theosophy, just pop it into Google and you'll get that as well. Okay, now our last question I'll address to you, John, and then I'm just going to ask for a final comment from all three of you if there's anything you'd like to share. What is the response to Theosophy World website? Like, we've heard a bit about it in Theosophia, and I know that both you and Richard had a lot of input with there, as well as members from other sections have input into this. Could you tell us what's happening with that? How do you measure the response to that?
Okay. Well, Theosophy World is an ADR resource website, which is run by Richard Sell and myself. And we have French, there's a French section and a Spanish section. And the Spanish section at the moment is really building up very, very quickly. And at the moment, it gets an average of around 200 people visiting it every day from all around the world, which is pretty good. It's a resource website, so it's really there. It was started to offer TS members, especially speakers, resources for when they want to study something or perhaps present something. Like, it's very rich with study guides. The American section have donated lots of these study guides, which you usually can only get by purchasing, or if you're a member, by purchasing them. There's a lot of new study guides there. The Spanish section have written one that's very popular. So for branches, there's lots of useful things. There's lots of articles which are, would be considered articles, specialist articles from prominent Theosophical members on there. And there's also videos on most of the subjects we talk about. So it doesn't collect every video that's around. It tries to focus on quality content and quality material all the way through. There's pamphlets, there's hundreds and hundreds of ebooks on there that you can download that are free for you to read. For example, the Bowen notes are on there that Renee just talked about. And it's continuing to grow and to evolve. So, if your branch or if you yourself are looking for some good Theosophical material to study, to use as part of your study program, this is the go-to place.
How many people visit the site? Do you know those statistics?
I know about 200 a week. It goes up to 300 some days, and it obviously falls down lower at some days. I haven't got the annual statistics on me right now. I did look it up a while ago, but you're looking at many thousands of people visited it yearly.
Yeah.
And it includes, you can see people that go back over and over again to it. And it tells you how long people spend on the site. So, it's
I must say, when we go to coffee occasionally, John and Richard are into these stats and looking at what I'm thinking, okay, I'll just go off over here while they count the stats for the week and things like that. So, yeah. So the actual website, theosophy.world.nz?
No, just theosophy.world.
Okay, so that's all it is. All right. Now,
just a final question on that. Are you looking for contributions all the time to sort of build it up or suggestions, I suppose?
Yeah, we definitely are. Yeah.
there's a huge amount on there now too, doesn't it? But it's continually made alive, isn't it? It's, continually being contributed to.
Yeah, we've at the moment, the Brazilians who speak Portuguese have a large number of videos, over 100 videos here in Portuguese, which are a range of their speakers. So if you speak Portuguese, it's good. The Russians have just approached us and they would like the Russian language on there so they can put some of their things on. So we haven't got very far with exploring that. The Russian section there isn't a Russian section, there's only various lodges in Russia. So there's a Ukraine section now, but
Yes, there is.
they could contribute, of course, which is doing very well. But yeah, to put another language on there is a tremendous amount of work. So we don't do it lightly until we know there's a person that can take that over and can ensure that the content goes on there. So we're quite careful how we do things.
Yeah, thank you. Ganesh, just a quick question.
It's a very wonderful site. Each one of us should visit it. Because when you're reading a book, you want to refer to some other book. I don't have to go and pick up the things. I can just go into the other book and look for the reference, easily what he said. It's a wonderful effort. I think each one of us should visit that site and then make use of it. Thanks to these people.
But the Theosophical Encyclopedia is on there as well. So you can actually just go in and look at the Theosophical Encyclopedia. But it's got amazing searching on there. So if you could put in karma, up will come all the references to karma, including the Theosophical Encyclopedia. And then you click on, only want articles on karma, they don't only show you articles on karma, or books that contain karma, they don't show those. So, it's easy to find material if you use the searching facility.
I would like to say that I visit that website, and it's wonderful. And I get the information, I get feedback that it is very, very popular. You get lot of information really. And the articles are superb, very good articles one can get.
Sometimes it's difficult. I think I have marked my book if I have to find out. It becomes difficult which page it is because I remember the content, but I do not know where exactly in the book it is to find out. But here I can put the search, I can exactly go to that one.
Yes.
Wonderful thing. Thanks to these people.
I do know they've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours putting it together. It's been a huge thing. So I think thank you for it.
This project is one of the first projects that came out of the international planning process.
Yes.
It's been ticked off, it's been done now.
Okay. Thank you. Now, I'll just ask Deepa and Nancy, any one final comment before I just do one last item after that and then we break. Any final comment?
On?
Anything.
Anything. That you don't have to. I'll just open to you if there's anything you'd like to say.
It has been a wonderful experience, in fact, participating in this convention. It's been very meaningful and illuminating as well as productive, I would say. I must thank you, your team, John, you, and Richard also, for the amount of effort you must have put in for this. It's really, and I see that everybody is so active in the sense that everybody is participating. I don't think anyone is there who's just sitting passively. Everyone is really alert and aware. So that's a very good thing. Everybody's active participation has made it successful. That's what I have to say.
That is true. I have watched particularly John and Renee, and even before we got here, getting things together and getting things ready, and having done this kind of thing myself, I know how much work is involved in organizing a convention such as this and getting it all put together and gathering the people and delegating things and all of that. And I have never seen anybody do it as calmly and effectively and efficiently as
Yes.
John and Renee have done it. It's really great.
I fully agree with that.